guys will come to me and they're like, I got 550, man, I'm good. My doctor gave me a thing. And I'm like, well, what's your free testosterone? They're like, I don't know. And you're like, what? Your doctor didn't measure your free testosterone? Free testosterone is the only number that matters.
I would never, ever have thought 10 years ago that I'm putting anybody on testosterone because it's going to increase your risk of blood clotting and having a heart attack, right? Well, in fact, we absolutely know the truth is absolutely the opposite.
The role of hormones when it comes to fat loss.
Yeah, so I mean,
This week, we sit down with health optimization expert and best-selling author Jay Campbell to discuss the cutting-edge science of peptides. And our co-host is Dr. Christopher Davis, an interventional cardiologist and chief medical officer at Liquivida.
ipamorelin was like the first peptide that people had research on. When you started using it, like if you were using therapeutic testosterone or whatever else, you notice a great synergy and you notice like fat loss and better emotional feeling and well-being and better, deeper sleep and all that stuff.
We're talking about health. We're talking about heart health. We're talking about brain health.
Everything.
We're talking about everything. And that all starts with hormone balance.
75 to 100 years ago, 4 to 5 times higher free testosterone levels walking around than what kids have today.
If your hormones are unbalanced and you don't have testosterone, then your insulin sensitivity is gone. How we use the insulin to take glucose into our cells, it's not efficient. It doesn't work.
All these young people, do you think this has some kind of correlation with such huge numbers in the population of people questioning what their gender is?
Dude, I'm glad you brought this up.
Welcome to another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. I'm your host, Sam Tejada. And as usual, we're bringing experts from all over the world to talk about health, wellness, beauty, and mindset. Today, this podcast is going to be co-hosted by Dr. Christopher Davis, my business partner, Chief Medical Officer of Liquivida, who's an interventional cardiologist with a hyperfocus in functional medicine. Our guest that Dr. Davis and I will be talking to today, this guy here is a peptide and hormone guru. Most of you guys have probably seen him. He is very active. He speaks on stage. He's all over the place. He has a mouthpiece. There's no censorship here. We're going to talk about what peptides are really doing and some of the new peptides that are out there. Today, we have Jay Campbell. Hey. There we go. Amazing, man. Amazing.
Thank you, brother.
Pleasure to have you here on A Healthy Point of View podcast, brother.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Very privileged, humbled. You guys have an incredible set, so we're going to make some magic here today.
Absolutely, man. So for the viewers and listeners who don't know who Jay is, I want people to get to know the 5-year-old Jay. Who was the 5-year-old Jay that led to coming over here where you're now this peptide expert, this hormone expert?
So the 5-year-old Jay is the oldest of 9 children, raised in a very strict Irish Catholic family, 6 boys, 3 girls, was always an athlete, was always the eldest born. So my dad was coming up in the newspaper business and he was had to feed 9 kids, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a constant grind for him to get moved up in his corporate world and be promoted. So in that process, we moved, I tell people this all the time, I was in 5 high schools in 4 states in 5 years, right? So it's I was a different new kid all the time. And that started when I was in 6th grade. So I was always kind of the new kid, but I was an athlete, pretty good student. I played basketball, baseball, and soccer in high school. And then in college, I played basketball. And then, when I graduated from college with an international relations degree, a focus on political science and a minor in molecular biology, right? So that was kind of the geeky stuff that allowed me to get into the things that I got into later in life. But in truth, at 29, I was playing an adult men's basketball league and I got kicked in the testicles. And I checked out, getting hit in the nuts would make you do. But then 6 to 8 weeks later, I started feeling absolutely run down. I was destroyed. And this is when I was 29 years old. So this is going back to 1999, so a long time ago. And I went to my PPO doctor at the time. I was living in Southern California and I worked for the Los Angeles Times. And and as I always say for this story, there's no coincidences, only synchronicities in this world. He happened to recommend me to at the time I didn't know, but it was a world-renowned endocrinologist in Pasadena, California by the name of Dr. Raymond Scruggs. And so he took my lab work and he said, hey man, you have the total testosterone level of a geriatric. I can put you on therapeutic testosterone and have you right as rain in 8 to 10 weeks. But before we say yes, or you say yes, go home and talk to at the time she was my fiance, my wife to be. We didn't have kids. to make sure she was okay with it. So I did, of course, and she did. And she said, yeah, let's do it. You know, you're a smart guy. We could do this. And so he put me on therapeutic testosterone. Now, this is, again, going back to 1999. There weren't a lot of people that understood anything about this, but he put me on it. And 8 weeks later, I felt amazing. And he wanted to take me off because he's like, you know, you're only 30 years old. And I was like, no, dude, I'm not coming off this. Like, this is this is transformational. Like, I felt like a different person. And so then from that point forward, again, like I'm 30 and a half now or getting close to it, I became just massive student of hormones. And in the process of learning about hormones, I also started using like peptides and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So this is like from 2002 all the way on to where I first wrote my first book, which was in 2014. I wrote it. It wasn't published until 2015 on therapeutic testosterone, which was called the Definitive TRT Manual. And then subsequently, I started writing other books on fasting. I wrote my biggest book and the one that I'm like most renowned for, which is the Testosterone Optimization Therapy Bible, which came out in 2018. And then subsequently, I wrote a book on peptides, which came out in 2023. And that was honestly like perfect timing for me and in the world and everything that I did, because it came out literally on February 1st of 2023, right in the midst of everybody that was being harmed by the vax. Wow. And so you had all these people that were looking for alternative forms of healing, not knowing what to do. And so my book was like, there was Dr. Seed's book and my book, and Seed's book came out like 3 months before mine, but his is much more written for clinicians, where mine's more lay. And so my book kind of just went, you know, center mass, and it just kind of blew up and spiraled. Right. And like you were saying, you know, people started asking me to talk about it, and, you know, I just started making the rounds. And so here we are today. So, you know, I've just been very blessed in my life that I was able to find something that I really had a lot of passion and just true inspiration to like learn about it. And in learning about it, you know, I'm a very service to others being. I wanted to teach others, right? Mm-hmm. So as you know, as a physician, a cardiologist, there's not a lot of docs that truly understand like hormone optimization. It's a real niche, nuanced, kind of do it on your own type thing until you have an experiential body of work. So I was blessed to actually work with a lot of those docs, like in the early days of, say, from 2008 to 2015, 2016, who were learning about it themselves, right? So it's like, I feel super blessed that I worked with some of the best docs in the world on this kind of stuff. And so I really learned from them as they cut their teeth working with various patients.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And you know, you mentioned you started like peptides and some other type of treatments in like 2002. And I've been in the industry for about 2 decades, which is after 2002, right? And when I first got in the industry, no one was talking about peptides.
No, this is underground. It was underground. I mean, the only people that use peptides, I'm telling you, it was in 2004, I started using ipamorelin. And the company that I worked with was called Southern Research Company. And truthfully, they were literally a couple guys, but and I'm sure there's people in your audience that are going to know who Southern Research Company was, but they were literally working out of the back of a compound pharmacy in Texas selling this stuff, right? Wow. And it was, again, underground research chemicals, but ipamorelin was like the first peptide that people had research on. Like, it was like this peptide. It was a GHRH, which is a growth hormone releasing peptide that did not increase cortisol or prolactin when you used it. So it was kind of like one of these peptides where it was like magic in that you didn't disturb your body's natural production of growth hormone. Right. So like when you started using it, like if you were using therapeutic testosterone or whatever else, you notice a great synergy, and you notice like fat loss and better emotional feeling and well-being and better, deeper sleep and all that stuff. So I just remember back then and using it. And yeah, it's a joke now because you think about it, like I was using that in 2004 and it's now 2025. And well, this is the facts right now. Still only 3% of people in the world know what a peptide is.
Right.
Wow.
Like that's where we're at, right? So it's like a totally giant blue ocean market for peptides now, but it's just us, you know, being in the biohacking space, we think it's much more prevalent because the people around us are using them. But the average person in the world doesn't know what a peptide is.
Absolutely.
You know?
So I want all three of us to kind of geek out a little bit on the importance of the role of hormones when it comes to fat loss, because fat loss is just a huge market, right? Everyone's looking for energy and fat loss. So you go to the gas station, you see stuff for energy and fat loss.
Dude. Mm-hmm.
So hormones, the role in fat loss. So what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I speak, whether it's a podcast or it's a doctor's conference or a biohacking conference or whatever, you know, I always tell people, because they're always asking me about like, what peptide can I use for this or what peptide can I use for this? I always say, well, let's first focus on your hormones, right? Like, do you have a hormone deficiency? Because as you know, most people today in our contaminated society, from the food, the water, the air, everything we breathe is contaminated, especially in large cities. Most people are working with a hormone deficiency, but don't know that, right? Because they don't really know how to get treatment. They have to be lucky enough to find somebody like us who can say, hey, you need to go see this doctor, get your labs done. But the average person doesn't know that. So if you start using therapeutic peptides without knowing whether or not you have a hormone deficiency, and you are inflamed, you do have too much body fat, you do probably are suffering from a hormone deficiency, you're not going to get the same results as somebody who is hormonally optimized or is hormonally balanced, right? So it's like, that's always a big thing. And I think I see that probably in 90% of people who start peptides. And obviously the real point of entry, I think, for most people now is like GLPs, right? Like they're looking for weight loss, like you said, or fat loss, inflammation suppression. And I think too many people start without really finding out whether or not the root cause is a hormonal deficiency, and then they get poor results, or they get mediocre results, or they get Wegovy face, Wegovy neck, Wegovy chin, muscle loss, thyroid damage, metabolism damage. I mean, all these things that happen that are negative, that people say that GLPs are bad, and cause this, but it's really just a product of their environment and not understanding what they were doing when they got it started.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the fact that people are thinking, I mean, the weight loss craze, and this is kind of the easy entry point into that. And I think the thing that kind of people forget about it's when we talk about our overall health. Certainly, losing weight helps your health, but at the end of the day, that hormonal balance. When we talk about health, we're talking about heart health, we're talking about brain health, we're talking about everything, right? And that all starts with hormone balance. And certainly, we can give a GLP-1 and lose some weight. And honestly, you probably are going to end up. Put it this way. I would suggest to you that you may end up less healthy than you were before, simply because you didn't do the right thing first. You didn't balance those hormones before we actually started with just the whole weight loss.
Dude,
right?
95% of people that start GLPs end up worse off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because and again, there's blame everywhere, right? I mean, we can't sit here and disparage the medical community because they're trying to make money and survive and pay their mortgages and pay their kids' college tuition, just like we all are, right? So it's like, most of these guys, again, not people like you, but most of these guys that are just average garden variety, emergency doctors or whatever, podiatrists, whatever, they go to a weekend class to learn how to prescribe a GLP, right? Yeah. And so they got people that they're coming to them, and then now they're doing insurance through, Wegovy or Mounjaro or Zepbound or whatever. And so they're trying to make a buck. At the end of the day, they're not telling their patients, because they don't know themselves, the commandments, right? And really, you just kind of said it. The commandments are you hormonally optimized? Are you eating enough protein?
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing resistance training? Are you doing cardiovascular training? Are you doing all of these things to actually allow the GLP-1 to be effective? If you're not, you end up exactly what you just said, which is a death spiral. You stop eating because it works, right? I don't eat it anymore. The weight falls off of me. So wow, this is great, but I haven't changed my lifestyle habits. I'm not eating clean. I'm not living insulin controlled. I'm not eating enough protein. I'm definitely not lifting weights and training. So obviously, like you said, 4 to 6 weeks goes by. You're titrating the dose up. You're paying more money. You're not getting the effects. You've blown your receptor sensitivity because you've taken the dose too high. You've escalated it so high. And now you're like, oh my God, I have muscle loss. I have thyroid damage. I have all these bad things. And so now, like you said, you literally regain the weight. You have, again, metabolic damage. Your metabolism is haywire. Your thyroid is all over the place. And so now you're like, why did I do this? I started off worse than I did. Yeah. And this is all, as you know, this is very avoidable, because like in our world, for the people that are doing this precisely, which is like, microdosing and doing all the other things that we talked about, they're some of the greatest drug interventions in the history of the world. Yeah. But the average person doesn't know that because they don't understand how to do these. And again, like I always say this, in my realm, in the, Ben Greenfield, Gary Brucka, Dave Asprey, biohacker realm, like we teach people to start low and go slow. But in the medical realm, because this is how they make money, it's start high, go higher. So it's like titrate them at the highest dose, or not the highest dose, but the average starting dose, and then just push them and escalate them because pharma gets paid, the doctor gets paid, the medical pharma rep gets paid. You know what I'm saying? Right, so it's like this. It's a ruthless, race to the bottom, because everybody wants to make money, but they're not really looking at the best interest of the patient.
Right. Even with these GLP-1 drugs, with some of the stuff you're talking about, I mean, you look at some of these patients and they look bad. They look like a stage 4 cancer patient who's gone through all their chemotherapy. They just look horrible. no muscle, no nothing. So going back to the hormone side, what are some of the hormones that we should consider, that people should consider to look at for weight loss?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, when you're starting out, whether you're 25, and as you know, it's getting worse in younger people because the environment is so contaminated, right? Like I see, I'm sure you do too, but I mean, I'm seeing guys who are 25 to 30 who have severe testosterone deficiencies, right? Blue light, video games, sitting around, not going outside.
Cell phones in the front
Cell
pocket.
phones right here. Yeah, mine's right here right now. I'm blasting myself, but I've got super protect. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, seriously, yes, all of that contributes to a decimated hypogonadal axis. So the first step is, without a doubt, whether you're a male or female, is getting your labs done, and we want to look at testosterone, free testosterone, sensitive estradiol, progesterone. We want to look at pregnenolone. We want to look at a bunch of these downstream hormonal precursors to kind of understand like what we're working with. And as you know, it's getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, younger and younger people are getting their labs done and coming back with levels that are so low. You're like, how is that even possible? I mean, we're talking about a situation in our society now where 75 to 100 years ago, the World War II generation had, no lie, Sam, and you know this, 4 to 5 times higher free testosterone levels walking around than what kids have today.
I bet.
So it is in a nightmare scenario, and it's only getting worse because, again, we don't have enough people in the medical community who understand this, because as you know, they're not taught about this in medical school. There's no money, there's no profit center. So the people that know this have learned, like you, by being in functional medicine or wellness or whatever, like they learn on their own through working with patients, but it's just not taught. I mean, you know this, endocrinologists and urologists are not taught about this.
No, they're not. And I think that one of the other things that you're kind of hitting on with the testosterone and free testosterone, there are a lot of clinics out there that are just kind of these, I hate to say this, I call them the fly-by-nights, right?
I call them windmill clinics.
Because you're missing the forest for the trees, just looking at a total testosterone level. In the world we live in today, with this protein called sex hormone binding globulin up because of all of the toxins that we have in our environment. SHBG is up, the xenoestrogen. So
horrible.
So the free testosterone is in the toilet, and if they're just looking at total testosterone, you're missing the forest for the trees. Don't even know.
He's 100% right. I mean, I literally have this conversation all the time. Guys will come to me and they're like, I got 550, man. I'm good. My doctor gave me a thing. And I'm like, well, what's your free testosterone? And they're like, I don't know. And you're like, what? Like, your doctor didn't measure your free testosterone? And again, for the listening audience, so they understand, like, free testosterone is the only number that matters, right? Because that's the actual bioavailable testosterone in the body. The total is bound. So it's not really accessible or usable by the body, right? So, I mean, it matters a little bit. You want to understand your total to free testosterone ratio, also along with your sensitive estradiol if you're a male. But, like, you're totally right. Way too many docs look at total, don't look at free, and tell a guy, hey, you're good. And that guy might be dying. I mean, I've seen guys literally, bro, with 800 to 900 total testosterone levels and 5 free testosterone. Wow. So that's a severe deficiency, but their doc has no idea because he never even measured that he had a free testosterone level.
Jay, do you think these issues with hormones, with all these young people, do you think this has some kind of correlation with such huge numbers in the population of people questioning what their gender is?
Dude, I'm glad you brought this up because I talk about this all the time. I mean, without offending anybody, literally how do we want to call it? Let's just call it sexual identification issues is literally a lack of free testosterone in utero. So what is happening, and I can tell you exactly why this, I have a giant presentation on this. What is happening is in the last 30 years, birth control in the water supply, like you said, xenoestrogens, phytoestrogens, phthalates, BPA, plastics, all of these modernized chemical things are in our water supply. They are in our environment. They're in the air that we breathe. They're in our household chemicals. They're unavoidable and everywhere. And so what has happened is it has lessened the bodies and the male and female, both XY, XX chromosomes, ability to be or to call the embryo to have enough circulating free testosterone. And so kids are coming out, again, both men and women, totally confused. Like they do not understand or they do not relate to be a male or a female. They're in between because they do not have enough free testosterone in utero.
But this is also causing like some kind of psychological problem. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, recently we had the shooting at the church,
and
right?
read that kid and watch those videos. I mean, that kid was so confused. It's insane.
And there's been a few others in
Many,
that, obviously there's a psychological issue that's happening here to trigger these people to do the things that they're doing.
And again, and I say this, and I wrote about this in my book, and there's hundreds and hundreds of studies of this. Testosterone is what allows, and this is not just a man thing. If you're a woman listening to this podcast, this is men and women. Testosterone is what gives the brain its power. It's again the defining sex hormone, but it also improves short-term and long-term memory. As you know, it also improves dopamine signaling. It does so many things for a human brain and for a human, call it state of being and personality or personality complex, that when you don't have any, this is the kind of shit that happens.
Right.
Literally. I mean, we are witnessing the destruction of physical anatomy from the modernization and chemicals. Some people will say, is it kind of indirect or is it direct? And I would say it's more of a combination of both. I mean, clearly we know there's people out there that don't want people on testosterone, but at the same time, it's just the effect of modernization in society. All these chemicals, all this bad food. I mean, this too, blue light, like you're sitting there in front of a screen all day. You're not moving. You're not going outside getting sun. People living in major cities who don't get it in the air. They don't put their feet on the grass or they don't ground with earth. All that stuff is bad over time.
Those are the barefoot shoes, right?
Yeah, man, I love these things.
I just got me a pair. They're comfortable.
They're awesome, dude. Yeah. That's all I wear now. I got rid of all my shoes. I just wear these barefoot, the Vivos.
No, I love those. So we talked about the role of hormone. What about thyroid?
Massive. So whenever, again, I lecture, I always talk about the most important thing to understand when you truly optimize your hormones is you got to look at it as like a threefold symphony, right? So it's like we always have a holy triune, right? We have the endocrine system, we have the thyroid gland, and we have the pancreas, right? So we have the endocrine is testosterone, estradiol, obviously progesterone in women and other hormones, downstream hormones. And then we have the thyroid, which is the master temperature gland in the body, right? If you don't optimize the thyroid and you optimize the endocrine system, it's literally like leaving one leg on a three-legged stool off, right? Same thing with the pancreas, right? As you know, as we get older, inflammation, which is from insulin, a lack of insulin control or blood sugar regulation is what causes the diseases of aging. I mean, eventually people get diabetes, they get type 3 diabetes, which is obviously brain stuff, but it's all three of those things have to be, I would say, controlled and optimized as we get older, or you're going to end up with one of the diseases of aging. So, I kind of like telling people to obviously live insulin controlled. From a dietary standpoint, you can take supplements. I've got stuff over here, BioAbsorb, Metformin, dihydroberberine, things that will help suppress blood sugar and control blood glucose. And then, of course, thyroid. As you get older, there's desiccated thyroid. There's supplements, ancestral supplement cell stuff that can help with thyroid production. But it's crazy because I've seen a lot of people start on hormones and not have their thyroid addressed, and eventually, if you don't address the thyroid and optimize a person's hormones, the thyroid will become sluggish. And so you always have to look at it as kind of like a symphony orchestra. And so like I always say, like you can't optimize testosterone without optimizing thyroid, and you can't optimize thyroid without also optimizing the testosterone in your pancreas, which is again your insulin production.
Thank you for that. Dr. Davis, you work with a lot of different, very sick patients, right? Patients that have metabolic disease. So when we're talking with Jay about testosterone and peptides, I want to touch up a little bit on some of the things that you've seen when it comes to metabolic health, right, related to testosterone and peptides, and then also, talk about body composition when it comes to testosterone and peptides, because we're always so concerned about the weight loss component, but when we talk about body composition,
that's most
we're talking about bones, we're talking about muscle, we're talking about all of the other parts that don't necessarily relate directly to just weight loss. So I want you to kind of chime in on that.
So obviously from a health and wellness perspective, obviously I'm biased because I'm a cardiologist, but cardiometabolic health is key in everything. And when we talk about metabolic health, and sometimes we use that term and people are quite, what is metabolic health, right? And essentially the way I explain it is really how effective my mitochondria are working.
There you go.
These energy powerhouses
Boom.
that we talk about a lot, how well they're working and how well the mitochondria are taking the carbohydrates, the fats that we are consuming and turning it into energy, this ATP, right? And so one of the things with respect to hormones, we know that hormones, if your hormones are unbalanced and you don't have testosterone, then your insulin sensitivity is gone, right? So how we use the insulin to take glucose into our cells, into our muscle cells and use it, it's not efficient. It doesn't work, right? So all of a sudden their blood glucose levels are extremely high, right? And then we develop what Jay was just talking about. We have these advanced glycosylation end products. We're developing all this inflammation because of the blood sugars being high. And so and not only that, one of the things I think when we talk about metabolics and what I see a lot of is when hormones are imbalanced, people develop this visceral fat. We talk about that all the time, right? The visceral fat is the fat around our organs, around our heart, around our intestines that's metabolically active. I mean, it's actually causing more inflammation in our body. And so the hormones, and particularly testosterone, is very important in keeping that visceral fat at bay. And so metabolically, I mean, the hormone balance is imperative. I think that as a cardiologist 10 years ago, I remember distinctly telling people how testosterone was bad for you. And no man, I mean, I would never, ever have thought 10 years ago that I'm putting anybody on testosterone because it's going to increase your risk of blood clotting and having a heart attack, right? Well, in fact, we absolutely know the truth is absolutely the opposite, right? And so the situation that we're in, kind of in medicine in general, you know, I had to, when I kind of stepped out of the system and decided I was going to have a health and wellness practice, I had to catch myself. I was going to be the best kind of I knew hormones were not bad for you at that point, right? Of course. But I knew everybody was going to be talking about me doing hormone replacement therapy and peptide therapy like I was some type of, like I'm selling steroids on the corner, exactly. Right?
No,
like I'm selling steroids on the corner.
That's crazy.
But at the end of the day, it truly is. I know I'm helping the patients, right? And so I'm so happy to see now, though, that studies are coming out showing the benefits of testosterone. And Jay hit on something else that we really have to, we're going to hit this again and again and again and again. The toxin part of this, and why it affects our hormones and how it affects the hormones, how it affects us. And anybody listening to this podcast, they know we talk about this. I talk about it constantly. That's like my platform these days. Yep. It evolved into that, right? I didn't choose it. Okay. Chronic illness is 100% caused by environmental toxins that we're exposed to. Everything from metals, pesticides, herbicides, plastics, mycotoxins, all of that stuff is what keeps us sick and what makes us old. So I can't say it enough times. And when it comes to destroying our hormones, the same things are doing that.
Dude, well, you said so much. There's so much to unpack. I mean, I want to get back to what he was saying about visceral fat. I always tell people this, and I learned this from Mr. Wizard back in the day, right? Visceral fat is more inflammatory than kerosene.
Absolutely.
So you think about us as human beings and this amazing human body that God, source, whatever you believe in is the, greatest omnipotent power in the universe, gave us these amazing bodies, but yet what surrounds them when we don't live according to the way we should, which is obviously to live clean and stuff like that, which is the problem of modernization today. There's something putting around our organs that literally lights them on fire, right? Like that's literally what happened. I talk about this all the time. Like if you're an obese person and you have tons of metabolic resistance, insulin sensitivity issues, like you were saying, you have tons of visceral fat around your organs, like you have what is called a cytokine storm 24/7 going on in your body. So obese people feel horrible all the time. There's no off time for them where they feel good. So they're coming from a default state of suffering. So it's like, first off, have compassion for people like that, right? Like all of us being healthy and being in this space that we're in, like that's my mission, is like to help people when I see people who truly are desiring the help. Because as you know, you can't proselytize. You can only help when they want to help. Right. But there's a lot of those people who are suffering. And my mom suffered from obesity. God rest her soul. She died 2 years ago from COVID, but she was really just, morbidly obese. And the hospital gave her the code, right, at the end that she died of COVID. But I mean, the reality was that she was not in good health. But so many people that are obese, getting back to what you were saying, are suffering in insane ways because they really are literally living in a default state of suffering. So it's like, as you were saying, like if we can teach them how to optimize their hormones, and that's the first big needle mover, right? Because they have to have the energy to exercise. They have to have the energy to start eating better. They have to have the energy to want to lose the weight and do that. And again, when you're suffering and you don't have any other state of other than just like feeling terrible, it's really, really hard to get motivated to do all these things. But But yeah, I mean, 100%, like what he was talking to about like just 10, 15 years ago. I mean, when I was writing the first book, right, which I was doing the research from like 2010 to 2013, everything that I was learning then is now inverted.
Mm-hmm.
It's inverted. So it's like you think of all these guys that are endocrinologists or professional trained urologists. I mean, I think of Dr. Abraham Morgentaler, right? He's like the father of like teaching people that, especially doctors, that like everything they used to think about prostate cancer was the inversion. We now know that a testosterone deficiency as you get older is actually a higher proclivity to get prostate cancer, right? So it's like everything is an inversion from what we originally knew. So as you said, we have to constantly stay learning. We have to keep ourselves abreast of the knowledge that's coming into the market, because everything we thought we knew is not really the truth. Or it's like you said, it's actually the opposite of it. It's crazy.
What is visceral fat?
I mean, it's basically just the slimy, call it soft, like subcutaneous. I mean, if you saw it, like, you know, and you've seen it, right, in chemistry experiments, it's like this blob of squishy cells that sits above our organs or sits above our biological systems. And it just becomes blubber. You know what I mean? Eventually, over time, as it accumulates and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the difference between like visceral and subcutaneous is visceral is harder, right? Where subcutaneous is a little bit squishier. You know, the peptide, obviously, testosterone is designed to tear through visceral fat in the center mass, right? Like the obviously the medical, the pharma approved drug is called Liquivida, and they give that to men that have HIV or AIDS because they have that disease called lipodystrophy, and it tears through visceral fat. So when you inject it right into the belly, it rips through visceral body fat. But it's crazy because the bigger and more obese you are, more insulin resistant you are, the more visceral fat you're going to have around your internal organs.
Okay.
And I think he said it best. You know, the most important part about it is the increase in the inflammatory cytokines, right? TNF alpha, IL-1, all these inflammatory cytokines. We've all heard about cytokine storm with COVID. Well, you're living in a persistent cytokine storm when you have lots of visceral fat. So if you, I mean, when we're looking at evaluating patients, and there's a lot of times, I'll say this too, we have to also realize that you can have lots of visceral fat and be skinny fat.
Totally.
Okay.
That's
and
totally
so
true.
it's not necessarily everybody that's morbidly obese.
Exactly.
There are lots of people who have high visceral fat levels that don't look overweight.
That's
and so
true.
that is very important when we're looking at, you know, technology that measure, I mean, using either the DEXA scans that we use or some of the bioimpedance devices. I mean, I guess a gold standard is MRI, but nobody's really doing that every day. Or bipod. But it's just important to know that you need to be assessing whether you have visceral fat, just like you can be insulin resistant and not necessarily be overweight. So it's just kind of understanding that simple tests like the DEXA scan or looking at the bioimpedance devices to give us an idea of visceral fat, that's really important. That's a good surrogate marker.
That's awesome to say that, because I have so many people that are joining my private membership group or, you know, reach out to me and they're like, hey man, I'm skinny, you know, and I'm like, well, what is your body composition? Well, what does that matter? It's like, dude, it matters, right? Do you lift weights? Do you train? Do you have build muscle? Because he's 100% right. I mean, you can be super thin and have a 40% body fat percentage, right? I mean, you could have a BMI where you're like 1 foot in the grave. So it really does come down. And, you know, I wanted to add one other thing to what you said, because you nailed it. Like, I always say this, like, statistically, provably, the way to live the longest is to be the leanest. Because if you don't have any inflammation on your body, how are you going to get one of the diseases of aging? So the leaner you are, the longer you will live. That is absolutely statistically proven. That doesn't mean that you're going to live that long, because you and I, we were talking, we can walk out and get hit by a bus. You know, I mean, a helicopter could crash while we're in an Uber and hit our car. You know, so I mean, there's obviously things that happen that are outside of our control. But if you absolutely desire to live as long as you possibly can and as strong as possibly can, get lean. And I want to preface that by saying that's not getting to be a bodybuilder, right? Like you don't have to be jacked and muscular. I mean, it's just when you're lean, you're muscular. It's not, there's no one way or the other. You know, a lot of women hear that and they're like, oh, I don't want to be buff and have blocky muscles. And it's like, no, dude, if you don't have fat on your body, you're automatically going to be muscular, because you're just going to be bone and muscle.
Right.
You can't have anything else. It's not that way. You can't be just like skinny fat, you know what I mean, without muscle. So again, the leaner you are based on body composition, the longer you're going to live.
You got to look good with your shirt off. I mean, that's what it comes
I
down
think
to.
most people.
You live longer
that's
with
the
your
goal.
shirt. You live longer when you look good with your shirt.
Exactly.
All right, there we go.
I think that's a reasonable
Because listen,
goal.
if you look at yourself,
No
and
doubt
you
about
just
it.
know that this doesn't look right, that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I always tell people, it's like, I just want to look good with my
Dude,
shirt
that's
on.
absolutely
Yeah.
true, though. I mean, that is a reasonable goal to have for any person on this planet, whether you're male or female. If you're a woman, do look good in a bikini. If you're a man, can you take your shirt off at the beach or at the pool or in a sporting event and not feel ashamed?
Right.
And again, to get back to obesity, this is like, and I've written about this in a couple of my books, but like, when you're obese, you have, without, I'm not casting shade or aspersions or negative or judgment or condemning or anything, but you have a form of mental illness because you're not really looking at what you are. You see what I'm saying? Like because if you were, you wouldn't allow yourself to look like that
Right.
because again, you already nailed it. You're suffering. Who wants to live in a state of default suffering? We don't, but we create illusions or, call them delusions of grandeur, whatever you want, where it's like we lose track of what's important and we just start getting in these vicious cycles. And again, a lot of people that are looking like that are addicted to food, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to whatever. It's something that allows them to take their mind off of the reality that they really are feeling like shit all the time.
Yeah, let me circle back around really quickly, circle all the way back around because I'm going to tie it to when you allow yourself to look like that. Again, no casting no shame.
Sure.
So what one of the things that we've already talked about, and this is what I see in my patients, it's I don't really care very much, right? And what is that likely? What is that? That's hormone. When the hormones are low, I can tell story after story when guys will come in to see me and they will just be talking.
They can't make eye contact.
They can't even make eye contact, right? They're
so
looking at the
ashamed.
ground when they're talking to me, right?
They're so ashamed.
And once you get those hormones balanced, it's the new person, right? You've got that. I call it. I told my patients. I call my guy patients. I said the factor. Exactly. You can't put it into words. It's the factor, right?
No
Let's go get it, right? If you don't have hormones, there's no let's go get it, right? You go and get nothing, right? Yeah. And so what you're going to do is exactly what we're talking about right now. Oh well, it is what it is. I'm going to keep eating these ho-hos and keep getting fatter. Exactly. I don't really care, right? Yeah. So that's part of that, that's why I want to bring that full circle because that caring and go get it and let me do something for myself and better myself. If you don't have hormones, it'll make a difference.
Yeah. That's right? 1,000,000%. I mean, I can't say it any better. We can leave now. We can end this podcast. I mean, it's true. I mean, and that's the way I used to say it back in the early days when I was, preaching to people that weren't listening about how important hormones was. Yeah. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm, Nostradamus, but I saw this environment coming because I was deep in the weeds, deep in the research. I saw what was happening in society. I saw the plastics. I saw the birth control and the water supply. I was reading the studies from the EPA that the EPA was suppressing. I mean, Dr. Anthony Jay, who's probably been on the show. If not, I'll connect you. You should bring him on. He's a genius. He used to be the Mayo Clinic researcher. He's all over social media now, but he's a good friend of mine. But he literally came on my podcast in 2018 and he talked to me about the study that showed that the male fish that were being put in aqueducts, freshwaters, streams, rivers, everything in the United States, lakes were becoming in 12 months female from the chemicals. That study was obviously suppressed. It was because of him putting it out there and pushing it all around the world that people found out about it. But I mean, hello, look around. Look at our dudes today. Right. Look at young men in society today. If half of them, if you were looking at them from behind and they had long hair, you wouldn't even know that they were a man or a girl. Because seriously, they've got estrogenic fat deposition. They're soft. Yeah. They have again, they hold body fat regionally like women do. Right. And this is all due to a lack of free testosterone or circulating free testosterone in utero. And so you're coming out and you have this testosterone deficiency. I mean, it's sad because the world is stacked against these people now. Right. And so it's like, it's up to us and people like us and pioneers like us to really talk about this so that people can start getting looked at younger. Because as you know, there are drugs and there are peptides and there are things that you can give a young man or a young person that can help them with this. It's just, we have to expose them, that we have to actually allow them to understand that there is help and they don't have to suffer in silence.
So I want to put emphasis on what you guys have been talking about testing for the hormones and everything else, because for the listeners and viewers, you guys have to understand that if you're a male and you look at yourself in the mirror, you should not have tits.
Exactly.
And I know people are going to get offended when you say that.
It's
and those
true.
are probably the individuals that have to take control of their health. I mean, you look at certain stats that are out there. 70% of the males in the age group that can get enlisted into the military are not fit to be in the
Can't
military.
do one push-up or one pull-up.
It's crazy.
Can't do one push-up or one pull-up.
So when I start thinking about, I'm very patriotic, right?
Of course.
And I love the United States because we have so much power, right? We have so much military power. We have a huge defense operation. But when you start looking at all of these men, 70% that can't even be enlisted into the military, that can't even get drafted, that makes us weak as a nation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's something that has to be addressed. People have to take that serious.
I mean, that's where we are, man. I mean, it's a really bad situation. Video games, porn, lack of exercise, lack of going into, I mean, you guys know this. Like when we were young, what did we do when we were young? We didn't have video games.
No, right. We're outside.
We didn't have
Go outside and
right.
play.
We were outside, kick the can, field hockey, kickball, baseball, stickball, basketball, whatever it was. We were
Spin the
balling.
bottle. I mean, whatever.
Exactly. We were balling, dude. Exactly. We were balling. We had to do that. But the kids of today, they don't have to be active.
Right.
And so you've got all these kids with all these hormones because we all had them, man. We all went through puberty, but nowhere to release them. And this is what happens. They sit around.
Yeah.
So let's talk, because you're the peptide guru.
Sure.
Let's talk about the type of best peptides for fat loss and recovery.
So yeah, man. So you nailed it with mitochondria. So like even with all these supplements over here, like the future of fat loss and changing people's metabolic, call it insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, and all of this stuff is really optimizing the mitochondria. And as you know, if you're fat, if you're metabolically dysregulated, if you have massive insulin resistance, your mitochondria are shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when a person that I work with or buys our products or whatever, they tell us that they use a mitochondrial peptide, and we can get into all of them if we want, but and they say it doesn't work. It's like, well, you instantly know because your mitochondria are damaged.
Mm-hmm.
You were probably 250, 300 pounds or whatever, obese. Maybe you lost 50, 75, 100 pounds. Your mitochondria are damaged now, right? Because you were so heavy at one time. And so there's always like a cascade that we have to deal with. But I would say, like, again, and by the way, if we did this podcast 6 months from now, I'll give you different ones, right? Because the market is exploding and we are in a biomedical revolution right now. But the two primary GLP peptides are stage 2, which would be like tirzepatide. A lot of your audience will know them as Mounjaro or Zepbound. And then, of course, the research peptide, which, of course, we sell, which is GLP-3, which is called retatrutide, which is a Lilly drug, which will probably be approved at some time, I want to say probably end of first quarter, early second quarter next year. But in the research community, we've been using it for years, right? Like it came out in 2023, and that's a stage 3 GLP. So it increases glucagon. It obviously suppresses appetite, and then it improves insulin sensitivity, nutrient partitioning, all these things. So it's an amazing drug. So if you can get that, a GLP-3, and again, as I talked about it, do a microdose, do it like every other day, 2 or 3 shots a week, combined with a mitochondrial optimizing peptide, a growth hormone agonist peptide, which I'll just throw some out there, tesamorelin, ipamorelin, CJC, which again, you guys know all those. And then, of course, my favorite mitochondrial peptide is one of two, is either MOTS-C or SS31, right? Yeah. And where we're going with this is like, it's getting so crazy. Like my company is actually creating a metabolic blend of NAD, MOTS-C, 5-amino injectable, right? Like, so, I mean, and 5-amino, I didn't even talk about that, but 5-amino is an amazing oral one, but I mean, you should see it injectable. So that's kind of where I would say is like most effective. I mean, again, start with getting your hormones optimized, but once your hormones are optimized, or maybe you're working to get your hormones optimized, then you got to get on a growth hormone agonist peptide. For men, my favorite's Tessa. For women, it's probably IPA. A lot of people use IPA and CJC together, for a bigger growth hormone bolus. But mitochondria, as he said, is MOTS-C, is SS31, is 5-amino, is NAD+. Those are your kind of like real giant needle movers.
Dr. Davis, anything else to add to that?
Those are definitely. I want to ask the question about, from a physician's perspective and access to peptides.
Yeah, it's a great question.
We can't not talk about that subject.
No,
right?
We have to, and I love talking about this.
Yeah, and I think that unfortunately, we know peptides are so incredibly powerful.
Right.
Yet, as a physician, I have to be
You're
incredibly,
hamstrung, bro.
yeah, right. I have to be incredibly my hand, right, exactly. You know what they can do, but for a lot of the products and the way how they are sold, I can't prescribe
Literally nothing.
So talk
Other
to me,
than pharma stuff.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about where those peptides and your company's peptides
Sure.
are with respect to how they're sold. Is there something? I mean, how as a physician, maybe you give me some insight.
Yeah, for
as
sure.
a physician, how can I recommend products that I know can be helpful, but yet not step over boundaries that shouldn't be stepped over?
So it's an awesome question, and no one in my history of podcasting has ever asked me such an awesome question, bro. So mad props to you to say that, because I love to talk about this, because obviously I work with like one of the best attorneys in the entire world who lives right down here. He's in Delray. You know, shout out to Jeff Cohen.
Oh yeah,
and he works with pharma. Yeah, of course. He works with you guys. He works with all of us, right? So he's amazing, and he's a great friend of mine. And again, shout out to Jeff. We love him, but he will tell you as a practicing physician that all you can do legally is talk to your patients about what you just talked about, what we're talking about on this podcast, and then literally say, because all of these peptides have been listed as type 2 by the FDA, I can't legally offer you or write a prescription for you, but I can tell you that they are available in the marketplace. And then at that point, you're off the hook. You're not liable because you're just giving them information. You can't now say to them, hey, Jay Campbell, I mean, this is where it gets gray, according to what Jeff says. If you were like, hey, Jay Campbell's a buddy of mine, reach out to him, you know, because he can talk to you, because they have research peptides and they can tell you the ones to buy. At the end of the day, legally, research is for research purposes. But how you define what research is like gray, right? Because like anybody can research on themselves, right? So that's kind of how it gets by. The FDA does not have purview over the research chemical distributing world. So that's kind of a gray area in and of itself. So research chemicals, which are peptides, small molecules, stuff over there, are not illegal. It's just that the FDA does not have any purview, and you as a doctor who is governed by the laws of the FDA and the AMA and all these different alphabet bureaucracies are not allowed to recommend these because they're not FDA approved. So it's an interesting like dichotomy of kind of like, what can you do? I mean, basically you can talk about them, you can educate your patients, you just can't actually say, I recommend you go over there to buy them. It's up to them to make that decision. But again, you're not guilty of doing anything wrong if you're talking to them and educating them. Now, of course, you can write a script for FDA approved peptides, right? They're super outrageously expensive. You're paying a massive markup. Hello, Big Pharma, right? Like, and that's what bothers me so much is like, you have these GLP peptides that people are getting through their scripts. Most of them now are just getting Wegovy, right? Which is semaglutide, which is a stage 1, which is almost irrelevant at this point, right? Because it's just appetite suppression. And you have these amazing 2s and 3s and now 4s. 4 is coming. Do you realize bioglutide is 2 weeks away? I have a bottle coming to my house right now. It's called bioglutide. It's got IGF-1/3 as the 4th stage. So it's a muscle preserver. So it's like a myostatin inhibitor. Wow. So imagine being shredded and then also building muscle while you're taking it. So it's like the ultimate cheat code. So that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I guarantee you guys are going to be calling me in a week when you see me on Instagram being like, hey, man. And it's an oral capsule. It's not even injectable. Oh.
Wow.
It's an oral capsule. And you should see the phase 2 clinical trials on it. It's insane. It has no side effects. I'm not joking. Like, you know, you always see in the oral models nausea. Or you'll see like, you know, some people became like nauseous or they had vomiting or diarrhea. Dude, there's nothing. They've got like 8 studies that are already in stage 2, and these people are literally losing. And by the way, the fat loss or the weight loss is 34%. Wow. So the highest so far has been Retta, and Retta's like 22 to 23%. So this is literally a quarter stronger.
You take that capsule every day?
And it's an oral capsule. Yeah, I mean, so the dosaging is experimental right now, of course, but the highest dose they've seen is 150 milligrams. But guys like us would literally take 1 or 2 capsules, tops. And you again microdose and you'll lean out and get muscular and stuff. And look, there's very smart people out there. You know, shout out to Sal from Mind Pump. Like, you know, he's a big Dr. Seeds and him are friends. And so, you know, he stays on the medical side. He doesn't really use research, but every now and then, you know, he'll call me up and be like, hey, what should I do about this one? And so he started using retatrutide, and he sent me a video the other day. And he's like, dude, look at my arm. He's like, this is the greatest drug I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, I feel like Bruce Willis in Die Hard, like, no fucking shit. You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, I told you that 18 months ago, bro. But the truth is that we are in a total revolution. And I would say within the next 12 months, there will be a drug there'll be a 5-stage, right? There'll be something that will literally like increase mitochondrial firepower, right? Wow. So it's like, it's just going to get crazier and crazier and crazier till we will eventually get to a point where anybody who truly desires to, like you say, take their shirt off at the beach will be able to do it and maintain an amazing physique rather easily, again, if you put in the work. Mm-hmm. And again, putting in the work for us is going to be a lot different in 2 years than putting in the work, because putting in the work then will probably be just lifting a couple days a week and taking two of these capsules a day, and you're going to look like a Greek god. Yeah, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
You know,
Jay, what are some of your non-negotiables when it comes to human health? Like people taking control of their health. Like what is the few things that people have to really understand that are non-negotiable?
So this is crazy, but it's not health. I shouldn't say it's not health, but it's not physical. It's the reality of like, until you look in the mirror and do the inner work to feel yourself worthy of having a great physique, you're never going to make the change, right? Like how many of us do we know in the physical world, great trainers, great personal, exercise physiologists, people that are strength gurus, if you do not teach your patient or your client or whoever that you're working with that they have to get to a place of feeling worthy of making the change, they're going to automatically fail. Mm-hmm. No one ever. I wrote this in my last book that I wrote, 30 Days to Shreds. I wrote basically that like until you can look in the mirror and feel yourself worthy of having a better physique or improving your physique, you will always go back to your default state. Wow. So it's like the reality is like, sure, you can do a 70-day hard, or you can listen to Jay or Sam and do all these optimizing peptides and get your hormones balanced and all that, but you're never going to maintain it until you realize that it's a lifestyle, number one, and that number two, you're worthy of looking the way you ultimately desire, right? So that's like number one, and I would say part of the inner work of that is literally meditation, introspection, sitting in nature. Like every single morning of my life, I'm spending at least 20 to 30 minutes in nature. My feet in the grass, like even this morning at my hotel. By the way, thank you guys. That's an awesome hotel. I really, really like it. It's right on the water. It was amazing to come out tonight and literally walk down there and just sit right on the dock and put my feet in the water and have the sun come right on my face, right? But that is a non-negotiable for me. So I do that every single morning. And during that time, I'm grateful. I'm praying. I'm, kind of in contemplation or introspection. Some people might call it meditation, but that's just a non-negotiable. How do I connect to the creator, and that to me is like a very, very important thing. So outside of that, that inner work stuff, that introspection, I have a bunch of biohacking stuff in my house, right? Yeah. So it's like I have a red light, a bed that I use, and then I recently got the Bimini. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's amazing. I think I was telling you about it when I was at Asprey because they were there. But the Bimini NanoJet, have you seen that yet? So it's basically a tub that is perfusing ozone and oxygen into your skin. Oh. It's absolutely amazing. I spend I'm not joking. I'm literally spending 45 to 90 minutes a day in that tub now. So that's part of my thing. And again, it's proof that, as you guys know from hyperbaric, oxygen and ozone is perfusing through the skin is insane for anti-aging purposes. And it also strengthens the immune system. I mean, you can't get sick. There's no way. Again, if you spend time in it, and as you guys know, because you've seen it, hyperbarics are amazing. I don't want to talk shade, but they blow up. You put one of those in your house and it depressurizes and you're going to blow your house up. You know what I mean? And it's happening all the time now. So it's like they're risky, and the guys that, the big guys, I'm sure you've had one of them on your podcast, the Jason Saunders, the Scott Schur guys, the big guys in what is it? What is it? I just lost it. What are they called? The hyperbaric? Hyperbaric. Yeah. Brain just melted. Those guys told me don't put one in your house. They're too risky. He's like, look at something else. So it's like, I wanted to get one of those in my house like about 9 or 10 months ago. I was going to put one, I was going to get one from China because you can buy one for like $40K and get it imported from China. The rest of them, the States, are $100, but you can get a really high end one. And they're like, don't do it. So I'm just walking through A4M, in Vegas in December. And I come upon the guys that own this thing and they're talking about it. I'm like, well, this is this is divine synchronicity right here. Like, I'll get one of these. And so my wife and I remodeled our bathroom in February of this year. And when we remodeled it, we put one of the tubs in.
What is it? What is it called again?
It's called Bimini. So if you find, it's on BiminiHydrotherapy.com. But I'm telling you, that is the number one, in my opinion, biohacking technology that's come out this year, because you can get all bells and whistles, which becomes a cold plunge or a jacuzzi. So it goes up to 104 or it goes down to 40 and just perfuse oxygen and ozone. And it's like all the bells and whistles,
That's
like 30,
amazing. I just
35 grand.
So you don't have
online.
to worry about if you do a jacuzzi, you don't have to worry about inhaling ozone.
No, because it automatically goes off, right? So you only get a certain amount of time. So it's like if you turn it on and you put it on, it's like a 10-minute cycle.
They
And then it
have
goes off and it
spas
comes back.
in Vegas now, spas where you go and you go for that.
Exactly.
Almost like when people would go to like a restore or something. to do all this.
Right.
So there's a company, they sell the actual bottled water as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I'm pretty sure they sell the water too.
But
This
they-
company sells it too.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have the tubs and they're selling the tubs.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
You guys, it's awesome though. I will tell you this right now. When I do it in the morning and then I go lift, I'm at least 10% stronger. Like I feel it. I mean, it's a noticeable biohack. And you know, their number one guy is Kyrie Irving, and he swears. And again, he's still balling out at 34 years old. I mean, and as you know, when you're small and you're fast and you're athletic like that, your body doesn't hold for very long. And he's still playing at a high level at 34. And a lot of the little guys don't play that long. Most of them are done by 35 or 36. But he swears that he's in it 90 minutes a day. He swears by it. He says it's keeping him young and doing it.
Dr. Davis, what is your for people to hear it from you, what does your daily routine look like? Like we heard Jay talk about, putting his feet on the ground, grounding, and connecting with the Creator. What does your daily routine look like?
So wake up. First thing I do is I do a PEMF mat daily.
There you go. Nice.
So PEMF mat first. And then, because I'm a practicing physician, my routines change. I mean, I used to be really into high intensity stuff, and I did CrossFit, but once I herniated my disc,
there's
about
no
that.
more CrossFit.
You hit 50, and all of a sudden, then you think you're still Hercules, and no matter how good a shape and what you're doing. But anyways, now I walk 5 days a week. I walk 6 miles in the morning while I'm reviewing my patient's charts.
Nice.
Because I've understood, and this is something that most people, and I think this is an important point. People don't understand that the best way to burn fat is something called zone 2 training.
No doubt about it.
Which means
Steady
that
state,
just getting your heart rate, everybody kind of has a different zone 2 training. We do VO2 max testing to give us some ideas of where those zones are, or you can calculate it as well. But anyway, for me, that's a heart rate of about 104, 105,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So walking at 4 miles an hour at a grade of 5% keeps my heart rate right there, and I'll walk 6 miles every single day.
That's awesome, dude.
And then, after I do that, I come back and I do 30 minutes of sauna every day. Every single day of my life
Got
that
one
I'm
of those
home.
in the house too.
I do sauna at 30 minutes. And then I'm off to work and work all day. And then the evening, I'm in my fitness facility and do a little weight training, probably 3 days a week.
Same as me.
I've actually got a device called the ARX and Vasper. So I got a lot of
I know
cheat
what ARX is. The ARX is the pressurized.
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's
of
in
course.
eccentric and eccentric
Yep.
phases. So that makes it easier. 20-minute workout, 25-minute workout, and you've really killed yourself for the week on that specific body part. So that's kind of my normal
Nice.
workout.
I agree. I mean, I didn't tell the exercise, but I do cardio every day. I mean, I'm 54. My wife's 53, and you nailed it. I mean, zone 2, steady state, low impact, right? You cannot be. I mean, I want to get this out there right now because he nailed it. You cannot be in your 50s doing ballistic movements. You will literally blow out a groin, an Achilles, a hip. Something down here, the adductors down here. I mean, you and I both know, right? We were probably great athletes at one time and we could fast and jump and all that stuff. I used to dunk on people, I'm not going to lie. And if I attempted to sprint, I would literally dislocate my leg. You cannot do it in 50s. You can do it, right? But you're going to tear something. So you have to be conscientious of like what you can get by with. I mean, look, I can go to the gym and I can lift and I can squat and I can overhead press and I can do stuff with younger people, but why?
Yeah.
I'm not competing with anybody but myself.
I don't want injuries.
I couldn't agree more. I learned that the hard way, but I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Jay, I got to ask you as the peptide guru, man. So I try all kinds of different peptides, doing this for 2 decades. And I tried one for the first time recently.
Yeah.
To put on some lean mass, and it was the LGD 4033.
Yeah, of course.
And my body didn't react well to it. And I was only doing, I think it was 5 milligrams, half the typical dose for the male. And I was getting these dizzy spells, random dizzy spells. And I couldn't nail it down, doing every single kind of blood work. Dr. Davis is looking at it. And we went through the process of elimination. It's like, what's new that you've done? And that really was the only thing that was new. Yeah. Got off of it, and then all of a sudden...
Were you injecting every day? Or what?
No, I was doing the capsules.
Got you.
So is that something that peptide potentially does?
I always tell people that, as you know, we're biochemically unique and very individual, and some things just do not work with like our biochemical individuality. I mean, our biological system functioning, we're all hardwired different. Some things just don't work. Like I know people that will literally inject CJC and pass out.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I know people that will inject Tessa or IPA and get hives, and can't take it. Like they get the effects of fat loss and deeper sleep, but they get hives all over their body, right? So they're having some sort of histological response or attack. And again, I always tell people everything's different, but I will tell you this, and this is a shameless plug. We will have, my company, BioLongevity Labs, is going to have a recombinant follistatin within 3 weeks, and we'll be the first company in the world, and Clotho. We're going to be the first company in the world to have both of them and to sell them at a price that is completely affordable to everyone. I won't tell you what that price is, but anybody can afford it. And we're going to turn the market upside down because we're working with a guy who's in mainland China and Thailand who is worth a lot of money. And he's worked for all the pharma companies and made himself a grip. And he's 76 years old now. And he literally just sent me an email 3 months ago. And he goes, I want to change the world. I want to give these drugs to people in an affordable way. And so I'm positive that you can take recombinant follistatin and gain muscle in a very short amount of time. And I'll tell you guys this right now, and you guys are the first guys that even know about this, that I've even talked to about this, because this is like top secret from us, but it's a once every 2 week shot. So just 31 gauge aqueous solution, inject it every 2 weeks, and it will literally, if you're doing everything right, and we know what that is because we've defined that on this podcast, you will literally gain up to 1 to 1.4 pounds of skeletal mass per week for like 8 weeks.
Wow.
So you can easily, any person can put 10 to 12 pounds of real muscle on them. I'm talking like newbies and even guys like us who've been in the game for decades. So this is a game-changing product. As you know, like all the guys at Medi and all the guys like, Dr. Adil Khan, all these guys, they're all in this fountain of youth chasing this stuff. They're all pursuing Clotho. They're all pursuing recombinant follistatin. This guy, our guy, is the first guy that has built this out, has tested it in mice, has tested it himself. He's probably tested it in like 40 people, and he wants to just bring it to market at a price that anybody can get.
Wow. Put me on the waiting list. Put me on the waiting list.
Oh, you guys are for sure going to be getting it. I guarantee you. Bioglutide
as soon as this podcast is over.
Dude, on Tuesday, you guys are going to be texting me on Tuesday like, hey, yo, bro, how do I get some of that bioglutide? And I'm like, don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. But I mean, I'm not joking. Like the guy that is sending it to me, he literally sent it to me, sent me a text last night. He's on the West Coast, and I was asleep in my hotel. He's like, it's in the mail. The Eagle is in the mail. So yeah, it's coming. But I mean, again, like the technologies, and obviously I don't want people to think on this podcast that only my company will have this, because as you know, it's happening so fast. China, if you make something, China duplicates it in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? And they do it for half the price, right? So it's like the good thing about my guy and our people is that we know that he's been doing the studies and he's like a genius. He has, I'm not exaggerating this, thousands of patents in the biomedical field of creating drugs. He has he created injectable ivermectin. So he has the patent on that. Wow. So this dude is like a genius. He's probably one of the best in the whole world. And he's like, you know what? I've made all the money I can get. Most of my family is dead. I live in Thailand. He lives in Thailand and China. He's super connected. He's like 75 years old. I just met him 2 weeks ago. He just flew into the States and met all of us, all the partners. And he's like, it's time for me to get back to the world. Yeah. Wow. Right. So he's like doing this. Yeah. I mean, he's an amazing guy. He's like, I want to do this so that people can afford it, because he told us, he's like, look, Lilly will sell recombinant follistatin within 3 years and they will charge $6,000 to $7,000 a month.
Wow.
And I don't want to tell you guys right now, but I will just tell you that it is affordable. That the man on the street, the firemen, the cops, they'll be able to get it. So this is going to be a game changer.
Wow. Jay, have you heard about sterile injectable CBD?
Of course.
What are your thoughts about that?
I haven't used it, so I don't really have personal, affiliation or use. Anything injectable is always going to be its highest impact from a delivery system standpoint. So you're always going to feel an injectable faster, crossing the blood-brain barrier, getting into portal circulation better than from like a pharmacokinetics or pharmacodynamics standpoint. So I haven't used it myself. Not a big CBD person, not because I don't think it works, but just because I've seen it like explode into the marketplace like in 17, 18, and 19 in the medical field, and then it just kind of like petered out. Everybody, it was everywhere. It was even on counters in Mexico stores when you're walking, So it's like I don't know like how much true viability it has with all the other stuff coming. Right. You know what I mean? Does that mean that it doesn't have like amazing effects from a standpoint of like helping with pain and inflammation suppression and helping people with deeper sleep? It probably is awesome, but I would just like look at it from a standpoint of like what else is coming, and I don't know if it can truly compete with some of the other stuff, because there's some amazing stuff coming right now, like world changing stuff.
Absolutely.
No.
So right now we have a big movement that's happening, the Maha movement.
I call it the ha-ha movement.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
So I want to hear your opinion on it, and everybody's opinion is different.
Yeah,
so
of course.
What do you think about the Make America Healthy Again?
I mean, I'm all for it. I wear a shirt. I almost brought that shirt. People have seen me in the shirt. It's like, the guy, our friends at Anthony and Teresa, done a bunch of videos for me with me in that shirt, because when we filmed Shield back in December in Vegas, I was wearing that shirt. I think the jury's out, right? Like RFK is a friend of owners of my company. RFK is an amazing man. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's doing great work and stuff like that. But is our political system hijacked? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, is it really going to happen as we all envisioned it, right? Because again, he got elected, meaning RFK, on the campaign of like making peptides accessible, getting rid of the big pharma, the V, or, the terrible controls and the call it Orwellian, monitoring and all that stuff. But is it really happening? I don't know. I think the jury is out, but I definitely know that he's a good dude. I support it. I've been to a bunch of their meetings. Obviously I was at their campaign dinner for Dave Asprey, on the Tuesday night before the event. Were you guys at that?
No, I came a few days after.
Okay, yeah. So they had a big deal there. I was there. I know a lot of the people in the movement, and again, they're very well intentioned. The means, these people. I mean, I feel that they really are going to do something, but is it more for show?
Is it I mean, the bottom line is it always comes down to this, right? Big money,
no shit
talks.
Exactly.
And the question
will they squash them? Yeah.
Will it be enough? The intention is there, no question,
no doubt,
right?
Yeah,
but everything comes at a price, and I agree with you. Is it going to be enough?
Right. Will they make peptide? This is what we have to ask. Will they make, as RFK said in all of his tweets, will they make peptides accessible? Will they allow him and all the functional medicine doctors to prescribe peptides to literally change the game? Because that's the way I look at that, right? Like peptides can completely disrupt the pharma bottom line. Right. And it's not like pharma doesn't know they work, right? I mean, they just can't patent them. Mm-hmm. So if they can't make 10 to 20 to 30X on them, they're like, oh, they're type 2 and you can't prescribe them. They're not, there's, again, what does type 2 mean? It's risky and perhaps could cause harm. I mean, we know that's BS. I mean, everybody knows that BPC and TB500 are amazing, right? Mm-hmm. We all know that those 27 peptides that they classified as type 2 are amazing. So it's obviously a money grab, or it's a inability for pharma to make money. But I mean, truthfully, if RFK does what he platformed and campaigned on, which was to make peptides accessible, then it will change the space. It will change the world. I mean, if you could go out and prescribe a peptide, or any doctor could prescribe a peptide for any, routine issue, we would have a world change. I mean, again, I always say this, they literally fundamentally address and treat the root cause of illness and disease. Big Pharma doesn't want that. As Chris Rock said, the money is not in the cure, the money is in the medicine. Mm-hmm. Right. Why do they want healthy people? They don't want healthy people. They want fat, sick, inflamed people who buy their drugs and eventually are on 20 pills at the age of 65. And 5 years from then, because you know how it works, it's all actuary tables. By the time they get to 69, 60, or 60, 70, 71, they run out of money because they're on now experimental drugs that will only pay for a certain amount of time. And as soon as they run out of money, they die. Wow. Yeah. That's how it works.
Yeah. And it's the same thing goes along with the whole food system, right?
Totally.
Why on God's green earth do we have some of the food? Why is glyphosate still allowed
It's
to be
insane.
sprayed on our crops? So,
It's not in Mexico, by the way. None of that stuff is allowed in Mexico.
Yeah, so I mean, it's exposed to say, will it be enough, right? Because it's not rocket science that the stuff that we're eating, the stuff that we're spraying, is killing us. The stuff that's in our waters, it's not rocket science.
Killing us.
But why is it that it still happens, and that's part of what drives the illness and the cost of healthcare in 100%. The United States, and then the other part that drives is the fact that we can't use the things that work, i.e., COVID comes along and thymosin alpha 1 goes away. It goes. VIP goes away.
It just
goes away. I mean,
he's literally right. I mean,
how can you just go? It just goes away,
dude. The way he just said. I went to Fleming's last night. You guys all know Fleming's right here in Fort Lauderdale. Amazing steakhouse. You can't even go. This is sad. You cannot go to a steakhouse like that anymore. Let's just call it a chain steakhouse anymore because the chemicals on the steak. You can't eat the food. When I go to those places now, I literally tell them, please, I want you to understand. I know you have quality meat. I know it's grass-fed. I know it's blah, blah, blah. If it's Wagyu, whatever. Don't put any of the shit that you put on it to cook it to make people taste it. Because, again, the average person is so inflamed. Yeah. They can't taste it unless it's laden with crap. Wow. And so literally last night, I did that, and my steak was amazing. And the people that I ate with didn't. And they were like, I looked at them and I go, hey, word of advice. And I cut a little piece and I gave it to him. There's a ribeye, right? Medium rare. And the guy that was with him, whose wife was me and my wife. And of course, my wife knows. Said, taste this, taste yours. And he was like, wait a minute. And I'm like, you got to tell them. Mm-hmm. This is the way it works now when you go to a restaurant in America, especially a nice chain restaurant. Like, you got to tell them, I don't want any of the shit that you're putting on top of this food. I want you just literally to grill it or to however you prepare it with nothing on it. Maybe put a little table salt or something, but I don't want any of the stuff on it. And the difference was so noticeable. And I learned this 2 years ago. Like, I realized... And just as a quick aside, when my wife and I moved out of San Diego in 2022, we lived in Mexico for 8 or 10 months in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And obviously at that point, we realized that the food was starting to get contaminated in the States. But like eating in Mexico, everything is farm to table. Mm-hmm. There's no preservatives. There's no chemicals. It's just farm to table. You eat it. It tastes so much better. And it's like that mostly in Europe too. You go anywhere outside the United States and you don't have these chemical ladens. But like once I came back in 2023, I realized if I'm going to go to a chain restaurant and get a nice steak, you got to tell them. You got to tell them. Yeah. It's that simple. Everything is laced with chemicals and preservatives.
Wow. Yeah. Jay, do you think when you're talking about the peptides and those getting legalized and whatnot, do you think that individual states can legalize the peptides the same way they did with the marijuana and recently with stem cells here in Florida?
So it's a great question. The answer is yes. And how we're going to be doing recombinant follistatin and clotho and not get in trouble by the alphabets is we're going to do it through a state that offers right to try. So if it's right to try and you have a doc, which might be you, any doc, prescribing it, which you're legally allowed to do through a telemedicine platform, there is nothing they can do because the consumer has the right to try. Right. So there's nothing illegal about the right to try. So it's like now it's about I don't want to say gaming the system, but it is gaming the system because we're in a broken system. So how can we give people accessibility without figuring out the loopholes in the broken system? But that's it. I mean, you're right.
Yep. So we're going to have a little fun here real quick. So these cards, I got them, one of my favorite podcasters, Stephen Bartlett, with The Diary of a CEO. Nice. He's got one of the top podcasts out there. So he came out with these conversation cards.
Awesome.
So I want you to open it up, randomly grab one, and then Dr. Davis, you grab one.
Beautiful.
And you read it and answer the question.
Do my best. Shuffle them out here. All right, here's mine.
All righty. He's setting us up for this one.
Do I read it now or wait for him?
Yeah, you can go ahead and read it.
Okay. So who is the one person in your life that deserves the greatest thanks? And if you were to give them the thanks today, what would you say? So for sure, this is my wife, Monica. I call her the Rainbow Unicorn. And she is my greatest spiritual mentor and teacher. And I would say to her that I am very, 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 very thankful for the amazing job that she has done to be a surrogate mother to my biological daughters, and then to also just be the great wisdom teacher and sage that she's been to me as a spiritual mentor.
Amazing.
That's good. All right. What is an inadequacy you admit to that you could work on starting tomorrow?
That's awesome.
Oof.
Good luck, my brother.
No, mine's pretty simple too, man. And it go. Well, I guess we're both talking about our wives. You know, I mean, when you are, when you're somebody who's just a driven person, and you create, you build, right? And I think sometimes I tend to forget to thank and appreciate the people. You get so caught up in the world you're in, right? Your world of making and changing the world. Like, we want to change the world. Like, you want to change the world with the products that you have and educating people.
Exactly.
I want to change the world with educating people and telling them the problems we have in our medical system today, right? And so sometimes you get so caught up in the maybe our hormones are so good, we just got to go get it, right? So we got to go get it. And so what I'll say, my inadequacy is I got to remember who allows me and who's there for me all the time.
That's
and so
awesome, man.
making sure that I appreciate my lovely wife. I hope you see this podcast. I'm going to have you watch it. I don't know if she watches these, but I'm going to have her watch
We'll make
this
one
podcast.
reel and we'll take it.
Appreciating my wife and making
awesome.
sure also, again, my other thing is I got two lovely daughters, 15 and 12.
Man.
And making sure that I'm giving back to them so that they know that I love them as well. And not getting, you're so caught up in building for the family, right? That sometimes that's not all that's important. So giving them you as well. So I'll say that's definitely, I get so caught up in my world of changing the world that I need to make sure that I'm giving back to them. So I'm there to be their world.
That's awesome, man. And by the way, I have a 17 and 15-year-old daughter, so we're very similar,
cool.
man.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
No, that was good. Amen on that. So, as we wrap up here, Jay, if there's one of the listeners out there, we have a lot of practitioners that listen into the podcast, but a lot of consumers as well, too. If somebody resonates with today's message, what is that one thing that you can leave them off with?
Wow, there's a lot of amazing stuff on this podcast, so that's not easy for me to come up with. I would just say that never give up hope. Because let's face it, man, even in our audiences, there's a lot of people out there that are inflamed. You know what I mean? And they feel like absolute dog shit, like you said, and they don't have got to go get it. They don't have that energy. There is hope. I mean, we have never been in a better time where there was just this amazing opportunity to learn and to find a solution. You know what I mean? I mean, again, you go back 60 years. If we had these problems 60 years ago, most people would be pieced out. What are you going to do? But now, because of broadband internet and because of technology, I mean, even the poorest person in the inner cities in the United States has access to broadband technology. So anybody with desire, intent, and action can get what they desire ultimately, again, without, income or really opportunity because of broadband. So I would just say, don't give up hope. There are people out there that can help you. Again, if you have low testosterone, if you have too much body fat, too much inflammation, you're sick, you're unhealthy. There's a better way. And I personally enjoy helping people. I mean, I am absolutely a service to others being. And when I get on podcasts like this, I feel humbled and privileged and blessed because it's like the opportunity to share this kind of information. And as you know, it's the 100 monkey principle. If we can just help one person, and then he helps one person, and so on and so forth, that's what we're doing. And I know for a fact, because I do a lot of podcasts, that this podcast today between me and Doc was amazing. And again, you were an amazing interviewer, and I know that we were going to help people from this podcast today.
100%. So Jay, if people want to find you, where do they find you?
So the easiest way to find me, like information for free and stuff, is to go to my website. It's jcampbell.com. I just had a meeting actually this morning with my SEO guy. We now have 160 articles on page one in the top 5 rankings between peptides, hormones, fat loss. And then, of course, I have an actual URL that people can get all my books that I've written. So I've written 8 books, 5 are international bestsellers. It's jcampbell.com/free-info. They can get all the books downloadable for free for a PDF. And then, of course, like you, I'm pretty much busy on Instagram and X, and my handle is jcampbell333.
Amazing. Dr. Davis, if you want, if you could give us a little quick recap and close it out for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an amazing podcast too. I mean, I think we learned a lot about the importance of hormone balance for many, many different reasons. I think hormones have been so taboo for both men and women. Hormones have been so taboo for so long, but they really are the base of your health and wellness. And so really, talk to your physician. And if you don't find the answer from your physician, search out one of the doctors, functional medicine doctors. Search out, you can find me. Find me, one of my
I would say
practitioners,
come
right?
to him after listening to him today, man.
Find
Wow.
me. I'm at Reveal Vitality. You can find me through Liquivida. But at the end of the day, I see so much in the last 5 years of my career, the amount of people and the gratitude that the patients have because you've changed their life. I can't put into words how
awesome,
it has
man.
made me feel as a physician, because this is why I went into medicine. So, just to answer Sam's question, this has been an amazing podcast. I think that there's so much more. On my website at the very beginning, it says science is 25 years ahead of the medicine that we practice.
No doubt.
Right? Science is 25 years ahead of the medicine that we practice. So if you want to be healthy, there are so many other things. Seek out a physician that is out there searching out for you, right? These peptides that are out there, I can tell you for a fact that 90% of your primary care physicians are not going to know nothing about peptides, right? And
Orthopedics.
right. And they're going to give you the wrong information about the hormones, right? So anyways, we're in a place, like Jay said, that we have the tools to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you, you educate yourself. Find the people that can help educate you, because there's so much more to life, right? So anyways, I'll end it up with that, man. This has been an amazing time. You guys, I hope everybody's listening. Just take heed to kind of everything we've talked about today, because I think it can change your life. And once it changes your life and you get that, go get it, you're going to change a lot of other lives.
I can't end it because I just want to say this seriously. I know a lot of doctors. This guy's fucking amazing. Like, please listen to this man. Obviously, you and I are going to become very close friends now after this, because there's going to be a lot of information exchange. But yeah, everything he said is so great, and he's obviously such a humble guy, because he's openly admitting that like everything he learned in the beginning of his practice, in cardiometabolic health and all the things he's done, he's had to like relearn, right? Because we've learned so much. And I think that's the most important thing, is everything he says is like, be a student, be open to learning, because it never ends. I think it was Mark Twain that said, the more you learn, the less you know.
That's so true.
Yep. Guys, it was a pleasure to have you guys here on the podcast. This was very helpful information. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from it. So thank you.
Thank you, my brother.
Amazing. Guys, you guys heard it. You got to take control of your health, right? You can't just depend on the bigger bodies that are trying to control what we do. You got to look outside of the box. Make sure you take this podcast, share it with all of your friends and family. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.